Hey, gentlemen and ladies. Yeah, this is Strong K, and I'm back with another video. I've been laying low lately, mainly due to the fact that I've been sick. I don't know if you can still hear it, but I have been down with, yeah, some sickness lately. Also, I've been, prior to that, pretty, like swamped work related, so I didn't have a lot of time to do this, but yeah, I'm back with a new video, first impressions of Orcs and Men, which actually has been sitting on my hard drive for quite some time now. So I hope, this video does not come too late for anybody still want to make an informed decision on whether or not to pick this up. But in any case, let's get right into it, and I will simply load a game. So bear with me, and I'm gonna be back in a second. Okay, and we are in medias res, if you will. Yeah, first I should maybe say or point out that of Orcs and Men, and yeah, not only has a somewhat, I'm not gonna say pretentious sounding title, but it surely does, I think trying to set itself apart from the mass of the games out there. And it is actually, yeah, sort of like an action RPG, in which we play as both of those characters, Styx and Argyle. Styx the Goblin here, and Argyle the Orc. This game is actually pretty, like, very heavy on the combat side, let's put it that way. And the approach to this, the combat in the game is actually that, Styx is more of like an assassin type of game character, where the game plays a little different, and then Argyle is sort of like the close combat melee expert, obviously. It's like each of the characters has different skills and attributes. Let me just point this out real quick. Yeah, this is the inventory screen where we have, it's like the different weapons, armor, stuff like that you pick up during the game. Okay, now I equipped it again. I just unequipped something. Yeah, weapons, charms, stuff like that. You can also upgrade your weapon at shops, which you come across in the course of the game. And then you have your attributes here, pretty standard. Your strength, agility, stamina, mind, those are your primary attributes, and then you have damage, strike force, critical hit chance, and stuff like that. So those are your stats, and then you have skills, which can equally upgrade, and usually you have, like, for Styx here, this is hand-to-hand, special skills, and range combat, and I think for Argyle it's offensive, special skills, and defensive stance. So each stance, if you choose to upgrade the stance bonus, which you can also choose to do, will give you a certain bonus here. For example, yeah, I got damage plus 50%, and reduction minus 50, and deflection also minus 50, and then every critical hit will stun the target. Same goes for the defensive stance, and so on and so forth. And those skills here actually, this is what you fight with. So I'm going to show this off in a second. So basically you cannot directly interact while fighting. You have to choose one of those skills, and then your character is going to attack their enemies according to what you have chosen to do. And like I said, Styx is more of like assassin type of character, so we can go into a hiding like so, or into the stealth mode, in which you will become nearly invisible, and then try to take out as many enemies as possible before engaging in open combat. And what we're actually currently trying to do is we're infiltrating a stronghold, or like a fortress of the Inquisition, which is our main adversary here. Like you can already guess, I guess, from the title of Orcs and Men, the game does deal with the relationship between orcs and men, and you can guess that it's not the best. Like, they're not on the best of terms. Also, addressing like the issue of fantasy. You could put that in brackets if you will, but racism basically, which I find interesting. It's sort of like is in keeping with more recent, and I'm gonna use this term very loosely here, fantasy games, if you think of like the Witcher series, or maybe even like a Dragon Age sort of thing, where you also had like enslaved elves and that kind of stuff. Okay, so we're gonna murder this guy now by simply assassinating him. And yeah, this works like, I mean, if you've played this Thief series or like any other sneak him up, you know how that works. Don't worry about the body though, because once you have actually murdered someone here silently, nobody will detect the bodies, which is kind of weird, I have to admit. It's just important for us to not get seen in the process of slitting someone's throat. So we could not, for example, simply take out one of those guys here, because the other ones would see us and then be alarmed, and then alarm all the enemies in that specific segment of the level. Maybe I should explain that a little bit more, because each level, and we can quickly pull up our map here, you know, has certain segments. So this is where we are right now, and if I wanted to, you know, venture further through this arc,
without me, Ark doesn't stand a chance. I better go see what he's up to.
yeah, I can't. I have to wait on the orc to actually get here, and then together we can further advance. So yeah, each level is then further like segmented in this fashion into little bits that, you know, have to clear off enemies in order to move on. I mean, basically what you could do, I guess, is you could just rush the level if you take Arc and Archile and Styx, and basically just march through it, ignoring all the enemies, who will be alerted, obviously, but I don't think that's the way the game's supposed to be played. You know, it's just rushing for the exit, and then it's like, I haven't even tried this, but it may be possible, I don't know. But definitely, I think that's not the intended way it is supposed to be played. Okay, so yeah, sometimes you have moving enemies like this knight back there. I think he's gonna come back in a second. So I'm gonna try to murder that dude. And what you do then basically is, you know, because then you're sort of at an impasse, because each of the other guys that are here will see you if you choose to kill one of the other dudes. Okay, let's try to murder him. Yeah, actually this guy should have seen us, like this one right there, standing there, but yeah, I don't know. It is kind of weird in that way. So what you do then basically is figure out who the strongest is. So by pressing the spacebar, you don't freeze the game yet, but you put it in very, very slow motion, and then you can check like the armor, the level. So those are level 12 spearmen and soldiers. The spearman is 12, and then we have a traitor orc that is level 18. So, you know, it would make sense to take out this guy. Usually the crossbowmen that we saw upstairs, they are not that strong and not that decisive in combat, so let's just straight go for the strongest remaining enemy here. And then we will alert all the other guards and then move in with Archile. Actually, let's prepare. Let's get him into Murderous Rage, which will increase our damage. Go back to Styx here, wait for Archile to get all fired up. Okay, and now murder this dude. Okie doke, and here we go. Okay, so now let's round attack those guys and get out of the combat zone with Styx, basically. So right now they're gonna follow us, and then Archile has to draw some like aggro from the remaining, or has to draw the aggro from the remaining enemies in order to attack him. Right. One thing I should mention: Archile has a you know, it's like a rage, or it's like temper issue. By dealing damage, his rage bar down here increases, and when it hits or when it maxes out, then he is, what the fuck, man? Let's poison our weapons and then pierce the armor. Then he enters berserker mode, which means that he will be uncontrollable. You can no longer control him, and yeah, and this is what just happened. And he will just take out everybody, including our little friend Styx here. And after he's done, like he calmed down from his berserker rage, there's a significant cooldown phase, you know, during which he will be Also not controllable. Yeah, which happened right now. So, you know, he's totally vulnerable now, meaning that we have to take out the last crossbowman. But I think we can do that. Okay, perfect. And that's it. Right. Let's quick save and move on. So yeah, this is basically this is the game mechanic. This is also why I picked this level, because this is very, very exemplary of, you know, what's going on here in this game. And now with Argyle back in tow, we can advance through here and then take on the next segment, which will be indicated by a saving screen. Yep, dude, just couldn't be more on time. Let me quick save here for a second. Okie doke. So yeah, let me actually load an earlier part of the game to basically just show off some of the stuff that, you know, I consider the game's weaknesses. Let's put it that way. Yeah, which is like has to do with the combat mechanics, basically. I mean, as you could see already, the game is very heavy on combat. Okay, so we have to take out those 4 militiamen here. So if I want to assassinate this guy now, and you know, it's like Styx sort of like hobbles behind him the whole time, and if you hear, like, you know, trying to abort this action, I actually have to use the right mouse button. I cannot use the movement keys, and then it's like move up close to him, and then I can murder him. This can be pretty annoying, especially like if you have like scenes that are very hectic, you know, where you need to take out enemies like quickly, shit, and without being detected, you know, just as I did. Yeah, it feels kind of unpolished, and the same goes for the combat, really, because I mean, first of all, not only do you only need specific types of attacks here. I think for Argyle, that's just the round swing and then the power punch, and you're set, basically. I mean, you know, if need be, you can use this like a rage thing that I used in the first part of this video. But that's basically it. And then you try to sort of keep Styx out of harm's way, because he's gonna go down pretty quickly. Unless there's like ranged combat, if there's like enemies equipped with crossbows maybe, or other like ranged weapons, you know, then Styx is your only chance to take those guys out. And then obviously the assassination part, but you basically just move around and wait for Styx, for Argyle to take out the enemies, and, you know, use Styx to get him up on his feet should he go down. Yeah, also, like I said, the game feels very linear. I mean, if you look at stuff like this here, for example, it kind of adds like a funny feeling to the whole thing. I mean, if you've ever played, and why am I mentioning this? I think because this like sort of detachment from the actual action that's going on screen plays into that a lot. That you're not able to sort of influence what's going on screen. You know, for like a tactical game, because I realized that, for example, like a Dragon Age had sort of like similar mechanics in that, you know, you gave orders to your character or party members, and then, you know, they would duke it out by themselves. But here, and I think the assassination thing that I just showed off is like a good example. The whole thing feels kind of like heavy-handed, really. Because it's super hard to abort actions, it's very hard to pick the target of your attack, and yeah, sometimes it's like the characters just do whatever they want to, and you lose really the sight of what you actually want to do. It's like, you know, and then the linearity of the whole thing, I mean, it feels sort of like a, you know, it's like, imagine you want to play like a cool first-person shooter, like maybe like a tactical shooter, and then you end up with stuff like a Call of Duty, which, like the later parts at least, you know, that feel more of like a shooting gallery or like rail shooter of sorts. Okay. Okay, yeah, and also this linearity is then continued in you know, the level design. I already mentioned the segments. So you just like portion by portion, you work your way through the level, and it actually feels like work at points, you know, where you just have to finish this part to advance further in the story, and so on and so forth. That's rather weird, and the story itself is sort of presented in the same way. You know, they have a lot of interesting ideas and interesting plot elements. I mentioned this in the beginning also when I talked about, you know, the whole racism stuff that's going on there. And then in the loading screen, sometimes it says that Styx is the only talking goblin, and of course you're going to get into that, but only very briefly. It's like the game only glosses over those things. Also, there are certain aspects. There are orcs, for example, that are sort of content with their, you know, enslavement, and you know, they admire actually humanity for having brought civilization and stuff like that. But this is just glossed over. This is just like, okay, this exists here, look at this, but now we're moving on, you know. Same with like Styx being the only goblin that's able to talk. You know, it's just like, okay, that's the reason why, or this guy knows something about this, but not now, and then this is the reason why, and that's it, you know. So like shows this to you as in a display case and then walks away with it without letting you really explore the story. Like, you know, in terms of the game world and in terms of the story, you're not able to explore stuff. You are actually, you know, taken along this ride that of Orcs and Men is, which I think is not the best of decisions, really, because yeah, I think those are better. Because it leaves something to be desired there. This is really the feeling that I get from this game. Also, it is sort of unbalanced. I mean, generally speaking, the combat is really easy. I have played... Okay, let me just skip this real quick, because this is gonna spoil something off the story here. Okay, I basically just skipped over this cutscene here because, you know, it was pretty revealing in terms of the story. Let me just load another level quickly because I don't want to spoil too much off the story, because this is going to be a very dialogue heavy part now. And let's actually take a look at one of the parts that I like of the game, because, you know, with all this criticism, I think the game does a lot of stuff right. The main issue that I have with it, though, is that it's full of good ideas, and full of you know, moments where you say, oh, this is, you know, I can see where they want to go with this. This is really cool. If only they had, you know, taken it a step further, you know. For example, this island is it's just beautiful. Like, I really like the aesthetics of the game. I mean, the actual graphics are cool throughout the game, actually. It's like I play with reduced graphic quality here because of my recording software, but rest assured that the game looks pretty awesome, actually, you know, and specifically this level I absolutely love. Graphically speaking, but also like the art design of the levels is pretty cool, like in a you know, complete aesthetic type of way. You know, this includes the soundtrack, by the way, which I also think is dope. I mean, you know that I'm a sucker for soundtracks, maybe, if you've been following my videos. I think most people haven't, but, you know, let me tell you again that I really dig soundtracks, video game soundtracks, especially if they're well made, or it's like actually only if they're well made. But be that as it may, this game has a fantastic soundtrack recorded with the Boston cello or violin quartet, I think it is. But it really shows, you know, they put some effort into that, and like the whole art design of the levels, not the level design itself, because that's very linear, that's a bad thing, but artistically speaking, it's like good choice, you know. I really dig that. I hope I'm not spoiling too much here, because I think we're nearing like a portion of the game where they're gonna talk about what's going on. It doesn't really matter. I think nothing important will... Oh yeah, here we go.
Just a little quiet.
The sisters have a clear view of the bay. If they're half as tough as we've heard, they already know we're here.
Yeah. Too quiet. You see what I did there? I wasted on you.
Yeah, also like those interactions between you know, Argyle and Styx. Also the character design is not too bad, actually. I kind of like it. It's really you know, the game really develops the characters into something very interesting and you grow fond of, really. I mean, they are kind of edgy, and they try to be edgy, or and sort of sinister, or I don't know. It's like Styx drops the F-bomb actually a couple of times. To a point where it just gets a little too much, really. One thing that I don't like, when I'm like praising the aesthetics of the game, is that the animations of the character models are sort of limited. Like, it's like, you look at this tower, man. It's just like, I really dig that. I didn't really know that it existed, like the first time I walked through here. So there's like an enormous level of detail. It's just too bad that you cannot do anything with that. I was going to talk about the character animation. This is highly repetitive. So if you watch the cutscenes, you can easily spot the different animation patterns being overused again and again, and this is something that they could have definitely improved from an artistic point of view. But yeah, so this is really what I mean. I mean, you could do so much with this game. This looks like if they made this into a proper RPG, where you actually can explore all the shit that's around you. With this kind of soundtrack, this kind of level of immersion, it's really cool. There's just a lot of potential. I think has been wasted due to it's like a very clumsy combat. And let's face it, the combat is the driving force behind this whole game. You basically fight your way through all of those levels without interacting much with any of the characters, like the like NPCs. The level of interaction there is very basic. Which I think is bad. Also, story-wise, like this whole racism issue and Styx's backstory, they're only like really glanced at very briefly. Also, Arkyle's past, as the butcher of what is it called, Harbor Bay or something like that. I'm not spoiling too much here because this is going to become apparent as soon as you start the game that he has like a sinister past. Like some closets, skeletons in the closet, I should say. Like I say, this is really like huge potential wasted through like the difficulty is like the further you progress in the game, actually the easier it gets, because your skills soon exceed those of your opponents. I mean, there are some difficult combats, but generally speaking, the difficulty is really easy. I changed it to easy though at times, because in the end I just wanted to play through the game. Lucky she didn't see me there. It's like to see what's actually going on with the story, because I actually genuinely found it interesting, or at least interesting enough to kind of see want to see how it plays out, really. But yeah, it's like the mechanics are clumsy. It's like it's like this type of combat where you have to like select and then click on the guys. I don't really dig that kind of stuff. It feels also kind of rushed, like specifically towards the end. You get the feeling that they actually just wanted to finish the game without playtesting it too much. There are gonna be some scenes later where you can basically just sneak past people, and then there's a cutscene, and Archive is being sort of or teleported to your current position, to your then current position, and then if you run across the enemies that you chose to not murder, they will just attack you because they see you. So yeah. This like unpolished feeling. Also with the stealth portion of the game, that you get, it could have been done better. So this is like my final verdict. I think I have to say, it's like aesthetically speaking, very cool game. It has a huge potential. It kind of reminds me of Rise of the Argonauts, really, because it also featured sort of like a similar or linear gameplay, I should say. It's not really the same. I think Rise of the Argonauts is better than this, gameplay-wise, and also you had this whole, favor system, like what god you favor and how that influences your characters and stuff like that, which I really dug. This is not so strong here. This is very linear, which makes it,
There's the damn temple. Shit.
And I think this is actually the part of the game where, yeah, see, Argyle is teleported to your position, so the enemies that we just snuck past will attack us.
They had to put up with a lot more than that.
Let's just murder this lady here,
Getting all sentimental on me.
and then, yeah. But in any case, so yeah, the linearity is a huge thing here that, you know, works against the game. Also this unbalanced feeling, like the difficulty. I think also the skills are it's like very convoluted, let's put it that way, because you have so many stats to keep track of, really. Because you can you know, cause bleeding to your enemy, because vulnerability, you can cause or you can destabilize your enemies, like throw him off his stance, I guess, which is not the same as stun, because this is also something that you can do. So there's a lot of stuff, like a lot of things that you have to take care of. There's like armor, there's dodging, there's deflecting damage and stuff like that.
Without me, Art doesn't stand a chance.
And what it boils down to is basically, at least for me, and maybe I'm playing this wrong, or there's like a better way of playing this, but you know, I fared pretty well. Like I finished the game, let's put it that way. So I must have done something right, let's put it that way. But what it basically boils down to is, combat-wise, kill all the enemies in stealth mode, then rush in with Argyle, and basically just use the swing or the or this power punch. I forgot the actual name of the skill. To like get rid of all the enemies, and then keep sticks out of harm's way, and then take out whatever is left, or like assist Argyle when he goes down, and that's basically it. And I think this does not, you know, it doesn't carry you through the game at all. It is actually too little to make a huge impression.
Without me, Art
And I think this is basically you know, where the game needs improvement. It's like I said, huge potential for me, sadly wasted. They're doing a lot of stuff right, but also a lot of stuff wrong. So should you pick this up? It really depends. If you're impressed by what you see here, if you like an unusual fantasy story, let's put it that way, not necessarily super interesting, because, you know, let's face it, there's no plot twist here that will, like, you know, make you go, oh my god, I never saw this coming. It's just a nice take on the whole fantasy orc thing. Also the world, like, they actually developed different clans. They have like an orc language, like they drop certain slang terms, like for goblins and humans. And yeah, I think some, like, there's definitely some design behind that. You can definitely see the work that went into that part of the game. Also, in terms of the artistic choices that they made, the sound design, the soundtrack is pretty awesome. It sort of reminds me of Rise of the Argonauts a little bit, you know, in that it is somewhat different than your run-of-the-mill classic RPG, but sort of still close enough to pass as an RPG, I would say. Although I have to say, you know, because of this linearity thing, I like Rise of the Argonauts better. I think it's a better game, but it's very close to that, to give you kind of like, you know, a feel of what this actually, or like an idea of what it feels like. I should put it that way. So the asking price is currently close to $40, $39.99, both on Steam and Amazon, and clearly I wouldn't pay that much for the game if I were you. Maybe I would have, like, $20 is okay if they threw in the soundtrack, which is amazing, which is also you know, available separately from the game, I think for $9 or $8.99, something like that, on Amazon as a digital download. If you like soundtracks, fantasy soundtracks in particular, definitely check it out. I think it's worth it. So yeah, but for like a $40 game, there's too much unfinished here. This is just like too much broken. There's nothing new, you know, in like the gameplay regard. It's actually it's like a watered down RPG. It has a lot of potential, a lot of good ideas. We can definitely see, like, you know, I was talking about this just a second ago about like the design process probably that went behind this, or just stands behind this whole thing. Or actually came before, let's put it that way, where you can see, like, okay, we can do this, we can do that. Why is there a goblin here? You know, this whole the whole race issue. But then I think, and this also is true, I already mentioned this game being rushed. It feels like, you know, they didn't really follow through with a lot of those good ideas, and those ideas had a lot of potential. This actually you know, I could see this as a like 60-hour role-playing game if you you know, had like quote unquote properly developed this. So yeah, good ideas. If you're into the whole aesthetic thing, if you like the art here, if you want to experience this for yourself, you know, just rest assured that there's not a lot of immersion here in terms of exploring the game world. But if that doesn't deter you, then sure, pick it up, even for more than, for example, 20 bucks. If not, just, you know, wait until you find this like marked down in like a sale or something like that. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope at least, you know, to have provided a little information for those of you who have not yet bought it and are still wondering if they should pick it up or not, if it's worth it. In any case, you know, leave a comment if you liked it or disliked it. Subscribe to the channel. I don't know. Be my guest. Vandalize the forums. The what's it called? The comments section. Yes. And I hope to see you next time, regardless of what you may write or not write. Okay, thanks a lot, and bye.